Hey gang, as part of my birthday this year, I put up the compulsory VTuber react video to the Bricky factions videos. I didn't realize he had two of them. I've never seen them. I've been in Warhammer for like 4 years now, and I thought it was time to finally become a VTuber that I was destined to be and do the react to it. So I hope you enjoy my shenanigans, I guess.
In the kind brightness of the far past, there was no war. Our galaxy was, for a long time, fairly empty and quiet. The first known species to appear during this time are known only as the Old Ones, cosmic entities that traveled across the galaxy with ease and seeded life through the stars. Shortly thereafter, a new species began to arise. The Necron tier, evolving under the harshness of a devastatingly powerful star. The short-lived and irradiated Necron tier try to find the secret to eternal life and to be freed from their terrible existence. As they,
you know, the majority of Warhammer could have been avoided if the old frogs just helped the robot boys, but they weren't robots at that point. They were just cancer boys. But like, so much of this could have been avoided if that happened.
Expand through the stars, they find the Old Ones and they plead to them to share the secrets of the universe and grant them purchase from their short and painful existence. The Old Ones respond with a lol and a lamau, and with their immense power.
It's actually pronounced lameo, but he's American, so it's okay. I'll let him get away with it.
They force them back to their homeworld. The Necron tier, filled with rage and hatred, make it their duty to get revenge on the Old Ones. A revenge that would come swiftly as a chance encounter with other gods gave them a solution.
The C'tan are amazing. We love the C'tan. C'tan are great. They're terrible. They are legitimately terrible and a bane to everyone's existence. But like, I think they're really cool. They have the best models as well. I have a Nightbringer, one of the new ones, and it's beautiful, and I want to paint it so goddamn bad. I just dropped my ice lolly on my desk, but that's okay.
These other gods were known as the C'tan, a race of highly powerful star-consuming entities. Do not fear, young mortals, for we, the C'tan, will provide you with the immortality you seek. Come now, won't you shake a poor sinner's hand? Quoted from Mephetron, the Deceiver. The Necron tier accepted the C'tan's offer of immortality, but believe it or not, this turned out to be a ruse. A trick. The C'tan crafted gigantic furnaces and began the process of biotransference. The Necron tier willingly walked line by line into the furnace engines made by gods who devour stars and had their souls consumed instead.
So, conspiracy time. It's just Slaanesh. Slaanesh is a C'tan. You can't prove me wrong because you can't prove me right either. Slaanesh is literally a C'tan to the Eldar. There you go. That's my hot take of the video. You're welcome. 2 minutes in.
Lived, irradiated, and cancer-inflicted race of the Necron tier ceased to be, and the immortal, soulless Necrons remained. Now backed by the immense power of the C'tan, the Necrons rally against the Old Ones, and the bitter conflict in the stars at this time is known as the War in Heaven. Despite creating various races and entities to aid them in this battle, the Old Ones are overwhelmed and eradicated down to the last, due to the sheer power of the C'tan fat off the souls of the Necron tier.
Okay, I'm going to stop pausing every 5 minutes, but I thought the War in Heaven it did include the Necrons and the Old Ones battling things, but the main bit of the War in Heaven that made the universe as it is now is the disputes between the Eldar gods, because it was the war in their heaven. It was Cain being a little bitch boy with all the other Eldar gods hating on him. And then things with like Vort, the blacksmith, and the other ones kind of doing silly little things. But yeah.
And with an army of unthinkable robotic slaves at their behest. However, the C'tan are greedy, spiteful gods. And when there was no foe worth killing, they turn on each other. The Necrons then put their sights towards the Catan and lay waste to them, securing their freedom. The once subservient Necrons now control their former masters. Worn out and weakened by these wars, the Necrons under their leader Zarek the Silent King lie dormant, with a plan to eventually wake and reclaim control over the galaxy. Over millions of years, empires rise and they fall. The species created by the Old Ones have footholds over the galaxy, but on a pale blue dot in the thick of all this conflict, humanity begins to evolve. And for the most part, the basic path of humanity's evolution remains the same as it is now for almost 15,000 years. Right now, in the 21st century, this is canon. You, right now, Twitch streamer reacting to this video, you existed at a point in the Warhammer universe.
I'm only reacting to this because you all told me that I had to because I'm a VTuber and I do Warhammer and I've never seen this video. This isn't for me. This isn't calling me out. I'm here, like, under duress.
But with time, humanity's ambition and the power of their technology becomes unmatched, and the golden age of expansion begins. Humanity starts to branch out through the stars with powerful tools used for agriculture, mining, and expansion. Some branches of humanity would eventually settle far away from Earth itself, and around this time, the psychic ability of humans are greatly expanded, and what we begin to know as psychers appear. But despite all the progress, things would begin to collapse. The machines created to aid humanity would turn on them in M23, an event known as the Cybernetic Revolt, and trade would begin to collapse due to the immaterial warp, aka actual hell, beginning to cause ruptures in space and time. These warp stones would
I thought that was gonna be 9/11 footage and I was ready to be like, wait, what? Wait, what?
separate humanity, and this would be what is known as the Age of Strife. The warp, a sea of souls, storing all thought, emotion, and the souls of those who have passed on, begin fluctuating into something terrible, as far on the horizon, something horrendous was brewing. You see, the warp isn't just a random assortment of chaotic energy. It is fairly well organized, thanks to those living in the galaxy. The warp itself acts as an afterlife of sorts, and the actions of the innumerable amount of creatures.
There's lots of, like, conspiracies about the warp. Like, I've talked to Sandman about this many times now. But there are some conspiracies where it's like, oh, the warp isn't from our universe, or, like, the Old Ones created it, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, it was always there. It's always been a thing. But because of how terrible the universe has been, and the amount of, like, utter horrendous, heinous things that have happened in the universe that have then been channeled into the warp, it has just warped the warp from being like a nice heavenly place, for example, into what it is now. So I did a video ages ago, like last year or something, with Pancreas and Sandman, and I took them through my conspiracy of what will happen next in Warhammer 40K. And part of that was the gods are the gods, and they've always been there, but they're the same gods that were always there, and they didn't eat the gods. Like, Khorne didn't eat the, like, whatever gods of war or whatever were there before. Like, Nurgle didn't eat Aisha, for example, or take her prisoner or whatever. Tzeentch didn't eat whoever. They evolved. All of the gods of life and plague and famine and whatever evolved into Nurgle. And Aisha is just this last remnant of, like, a split personality of that god. So she is technically a prisoner, yes, but the gods in the warp are not material beings, they're not physical beings. So they can exist in many forms or no forms at all times. Yeah, that's my conspiracy. Kegarak is Zinch. There you go. GG.
Creatures who live in the galaxy have manifested a pantheon of organized entities known as the Forces of Chaos. At their helm are three major entities, Khorne, Nurgle, and Tzeentch. However, a fourth one, Slaanesh, was about to be born. The ancient Eldar were one of the first species created by the Old Ones, and due to their extreme—
Man, that old art is horrendous. God damn. It's like a mural in the underpassage under a station. God damn.
an unbridled excess, the birthing of Slaanesh tore a hole in the galaxy and forever split the Eldar into those of the craft world, who sought to bring their species back together, and those of the Drukhari, who wished to continue what caused the birth of Slaanesh in the first place. The birthing of this fourth chaos god settled the warp storms of the Immaterium and ended the age of strife, but humanity was still fractured. So one man revealed himself and spearheaded an immense attempt to reunite all the fractured pieces of humanity. That man was the Emperor of Mankind.
This guy sucks. He's the worst guy ever. Like, I understand that it's like stolen from Dune or like inspired by Dune and like Duke Leto and Dune, whatever, but like he's such a shit guy. Sorry to swear. The Imperium is so terrible. I'm very much a Death Guard boy. I love my Death Guard. I don't like the Imperium. There you go.
After reclaiming the nearly destroyed Earth, the Emperor embarked on the Unification Wars to unite humanity under the banner of the Imperium of Man. However, due to the very long and devastating impact of the Age of Strife, humanity as we know it is not the same. To reconquer Earth, the Emperor would need more than mere men. Great beings, known as the Thunder Warriors, were recruited by the Emperor to reclaim the Earth with ease. But these warriors are a blunt tool and had, overstayed their welcome. He would need something better, and that solution would be known as the Space Marines. Superhuman soldiers that will have the skill and cunning exponentially greater than the mortal man.
Is that from the Secret Level episode?
These new warriors would be commanded by an elite group of his very own sons known as the Primarchs. Unfortunately, though, Daddy didn't charge the baby monitor, and his 18 sons would be stolen by the forces of chaos and scattered across the galaxy. This would begin the Great Crusade, a monumental task to take back the stars in the name of humanity and reclaim the lost Primarch sons. However, he would need the fires of industry to make this happen. Looking to the distant cousins of Mars, the Emperor signed a treaty with the technologically irradiated hellscape of the Red Planet and allowed the cult of the machine god, the Mechanicum,
what game is
to
this
supply
from?
his crusade. While Space Marines were the tip of the spear, their numbers paled to
game
the
was that
vast
from?
might of the Imperial Army and Navy. The Astra Militarum
That looked
and their
cool.
seemingly endless numbers make up the bulk of the
Battlefield
fighting
Gothic?
force for
Oh,
humanity,
okay.
supplied by the
I've always wanted to
intelligence
play
and
that.
prowess of various agents of the Imperium, such as rogue traders and assassins. Due to the lack
That
of
looks sick.
connectivity
What was that from? Wait,
Imperium.
what is this from? What is this animation from? Is this also Gothic? Mechanicus? Oh, that's in Mechanicus? I don't remember that. Huh. Maybe we need to play it again. Okay. I love
such
the
as
animation.
rogue
It's
traders
great.
and assassins.
That looks
Due
sick.
to the lack of connectivity between the worlds, what a society had become over thousands
The
of years
intro?
became
Oh.
mysterious.
I haven't
and
played it
varied.
in
Tools
years.
once used for harvesting and agriculture now are being used as machines of war in the form of imperial knights. Some of these fractures of humanity would even be changed further and become unrecognizable to the average human, with differences in size, skin color, appendages.
Man, that's a great freeze frame. But like, Skitarii in Darktide are so good. They're so good. And I didn't realize how much I was nerfing myself by making my character really short in that game until I played Skitarii. And then I made myself really tall. And it's like, goddamn, headshots sure are easy when you're taller than everyone.
Cat ears, sometimes. Some would go so far to become their own galactic societies, like the miners of the galactic core and their immense supercomputers, forming the Leagues of Votan. After an incredible amount of effort and books, the lost sons of the Emperor would be reunited, and the Imperium of Man would be firmly established. This, however, would not last. Be it intentional or accidental, the Emperor would not reveal to his sons the true nature of the galaxy and the terrors of the warp. And this oversight would result in one of the most impactful wars in humanity's history. The favorite son of the
Bold! Bold man! Bold! He's bold! Bold! Mega bold! Bold, bold, bold!
Emperor,
Nice
Horus,
puppy.
would fall to the powers of chaos and turn on his father. This betrayal, this backstabbing, this heresy, this Horus heresy would result in a split in the Imperium with devastating consequences.
Oh, look, it's Sanguinius. Look, it's the dead guy. It's the dumb dead guy. He's Sanguinius. He dead. He's a stupid dead guy. Look at him. Look at him being all dead over there.
Half of the Emperor's loyal sons would fall to chaos and become the Chaos Space Marines, along with the forces of the Dark Mechanicum and the Chaos Knights. The conflict would result in the absolute obliteration of Horus and the physical death of the Emperor himself. The near-dead body of the Emperor would be placed on the Golden Throne to serve as a beacon of humanity and a
Man, if he updates this again and he puts in the 11th trailer with the art from the Emperor in this, that would be sick.
allow for the continued ability to travel the stars, protected by his most loyal, the Adeptus Custodes. The Imperium would be vulnerable during this age of rebirth, and Terra would find itself under siege by one of the most formidable species in the galaxy, the Orcs. As time went on and memories of the Emperor's vision began to fade, the Emperor would become less of a head of state and more of a religious figure, and the Imperium would change to reflect this. The leadership on a planet would be at the behest of the High Lords of Terra, and their actions would be courtesy of the incomparable power and authority of the Inquisition. The zealots of the Imperium would intensify and create a brand new era known as the Age of Apostasy. And this ecclesiarchal command of the Imperium would end up with one of the strongest fighting forces of Terra, the Adeptus Sororitas. Over time, this age would come.
They all have these dumbass haircuts, man. They all have these, like, the white hair is pretty sick, but, like, they all have these, like, bowl cut bob haircuts. Like, they don't need to
pass, and we would approach the 40.
Also, reminder, I drew a really cool Sister of Battle the other year. You should look at it. It's here.
40th millennium of Warhammer 40,000. Which, you guessed it, would come with its own form of problems. A primitive species once found during a recon mission would be able to evolve in relative secrecy.
Watch my conspiracy video. I have such a massive, big, raging conspiracy on the Tau. God damn. I think that would be sick if they did what I thought they would do in my conspiracy, but we'll see.
For 6,000 years, becoming a highly advanced coalition of aliens known as the Tau Empire. And if the threats of the galaxy weren't bad enough, there are threats from outside the galaxy. As a monster has begun to wrap its tendrils around the Milky Way, the Tyranids, monsters that serve a psychic hive mind and present tactics previously unseen in the Milky Way. Be it a direct assault with their monstrous bug-like presence, or through the more covert gene stealer cults, the presence of yet another threat in the galaxy is proving to be overwhelming to the Imperium. In the 41st millennium, there is no peace among the stars. At any point, your life can and will be threatened by the Xenos races uncountable, or by the arch enemy of chaos within, or by the decroded terror that is the Imperium itself. It is to live in the cruelest and most bloody regime imaginable. Forget the power of technology and science, or the safety of promise and understanding. For in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war.
Hammer 40K.
Five years ago, I made every Warhammer 40K faction explained. A passion project of mine for a universe that I enjoyed so much. Its main purpose was to be a drawbridge, the separation between the layman who had only ever seen the big armored blue man situated neatly next to a Wetzel's Pretzels, and then the hardcore Warhammer lore nerd. That was just too wide, and there was nothing bridging these two together. Since 2020, Warhammer has exploded in popularity thanks to COVID, quality game updates, and a few excellent video games, and a couple miniseries. The sheer volume of people who have told me they have purchased miniatures due to that video alone makes me feel as if Games Workshop owes me commission. However, that video is incomplete. I was not a casual fan, but I was also not a hardcore lore junkie. In the 5 years since that video's release, multiple channels have sprouted up, and the drawbridge between casual to the obsessed has never been wider or easier to traverse. Even I, myself, have been a part of Adeptus Ridiculous, a podcast teaching lore in a much simpler and condensed form.
It has DK from Law Crimes in that podcast. I've also never seen that podcast either. I've collabed a million times with Bricky at this point. This is the first time I've ever watched a Bricky video. I just want you to know that.
Needless to say, I've learned a lot. Warhammer is so much more than just Spaceman shoots big gun. It has also grown substantially from its origins, being a Warhammer fantasy spin-off just in space. Now, it is a black library filled with immensely deep characters, difficult themes, and even some tear-jerking stories. It is a backdrop for a million stories over a million worlds, and I did not see its true depth in 2020. But now, I'd like to share what I've learned. We just had a brief summary of the world and each faction that takes place during it. And we did that because to truly understand each faction, we must understand what makes them the way they are. And to do so, we need to begin in chronological order, discussing their origins, their culture, their powers, and of course, what makes them oh so grimdark. So let's begin with the group that started it all and sing praise to the Infinite Empire.
Yeah!
As mentioned
We love
before, the Necron
Necrons.
tier were the original form of the Necrons, an alien race far away from us that lived short, painful lives due to the irradiation of their star. Normally, this would manifest as like a sort of cancer, a space cancer of sorts. The Necrons are very much inspired by the ancient Egyptian aesthetic, but unlike the windswept dunes commonly associated with it, the irradiated hellscape the Necron tier endured was far from picturesque. This also translates into their higher.
It's kind of like Barbarous, but if the Necrons, every single place they went was barbarous. That's literally how the Necrons had it. It was so bad for them.
Hierarchy. They are a race of nobles and peasants. Most of the peasants would often live for their very short amount of time, only a couple of decades, while the nobles tended to have better care and would live a little bit longer, but still far less than the average lifespan of a human, even today in the 21st century. The leader of the Necrons was Zarek, the Silent King. He was the one who took the deal with the Catan and the Deceiver. Of course, he wasn't aware of the fact that they were known as the Deceiver at the time, but the whole species was blinded by hate after being debased by the Old Ones on their quest to cure their illness. The sheer pain that underwent the Necron race can't be understated, as their fear was manic. The Catan are, of course, gods that eat stars, and when the leader of your species tells you to march into the gigantic green furnaces to ascend to immortality, you march. The scenes from these are long lines of both the peasantry.
I assume he's going to get to this, but it's super sad in some of the stories, because there are some stories where it's like a lot of the Necrons realized that it was a bad idea, but they were already so far into it already that they couldn't not go through with the transference. And it's quite sad.
And nobles clutching their loved ones in a frantic act to save their own lives. But gods cannot die. So in reality, what occurred is the Catan were shattered into thousands of pieces, and each shard of their god was trapped in a stasis vault and mind controlled to do the bidding of the Necrons they once enslaved.
I know he made this before Mechanicus 2, but there's a really cool shard in Mechanicus 2 of the Deceiver.
Were quite prominent, and as you can imagine, a galactic war really takes its toll on the joints, or I guess the servos. It was in their best interest to wait out the galactic rise of the other races and come back at a more opportune time. But the end goal for many, including Zarek himself, is to return the souls to their bodies, to undo the horrible fate he cast upon them. This is not the interest of all. Many simply wish to rule their dynasty with an iron fist and kill all they consider unworthy. But to many others, it is to undo the decision that doomed them all. Before they can do that, there is a pest that needs exterminating. That is the fundamental understanding of the Necrons. They are so hyper advanced that their science borders on magic.
Humans.
They play with the fundamental aspects of reality and time. Their mastery of the physical galaxy is the strongest in the universe. Their weapons reduce people to the barest molecules, and they have devices capable of causing stars to supernova. They are unfathomably difficult to kill, as if you do fell one of their number, the living metal reknits itself and the reanimation protocols allow it to come back alive once again. Of course, souls exist in Warhammer, and in the case of the Necrons here, they were consumed by the star gods. This begs the question, however, if you were to pass on, expire, as one might put it, where would your soul go? The answer to this is the warp. In Warhammer, a soul is real. And so is hell, the afterlife, the Empyrean, the Sea of Souls, the Immaterium. All of these names refer to the dimension parallel to our own, known as the warp. Now, the warp is not like our reality. It does not follow the classic normalcy of time and space. It is defined as the Sea of Souls, and it acts like this in a more literal way than you can realize. To imagine the warp is to imagine the sea itself. Hell is real, and you can surf on it. It has a current. They can become more dangerous depending on where you go and how bad the weather is.
I can't remember what it's called. I really liked that in Advent Children.
Of our reality and of our
should watch that movie again.
All thoughts, all emotions, all feeling.
Yeah. I want to watch Advent Children again.
A soul is passed on into the warp. If an entire planet decides it's going to engage in a blood-fueled rampage of murder and gore, then the warp around that planet will be affected in a similar manner. It's not something that you can see. It is a parallel, not perpendicular dimension. But a certain faction's galactic war in heaven didn't do it any favors. Now the warp is turbulent, and its realms belong to a pantheon of gods known simply as The forces of chaos are beings that serve directly under their patron deity. There are 4 current gods of chaos at the moment: Khorne, Tzeentch, Nurgle, and Slaanesh. Each of them represent various facets of and emotions of sentient species and play a great game against one another for total control over their realms. Interestingly enough, while their disciples have physical forms we can understand, the chaos gods do not have a physical visual that you can perceive in reality. So while there are tons of fantastic fan art, we do not know what they truly look like, though they are conveniently color-coded. Khorne is the god of blood and murder, carnage and slaughter. He is the one who is most powered by the wholesale killing of any living thing, for Khorne cares not from where the blood flows. With a sacred number of 8, he is the lord of all things involving killing and blood and gore. The champions are extremely strong as well.
Bastor just corrupted Vol. Yeah, that's what my conspiracy is. It's the current Chaos Gods are just warped regular gods. Tzeentch, Kagarak, Nurgle, Aisha, Khorne, Kane, Vol, Vashtor, Slaanesh, I don't know,
This may appear to be quite frightening, of course. Demonic, one might say. But in the world of chaos, all emotions feed one of these gods in one way or another. If you were to define Khorne with single words, you would use blood, carnage, murder, skulls. But you'd be missing out on important ones like strength, honor, prowess, courage, and skill. Khorne is not just about the wholesale slaughter of people. He is about the honor and power of martial combat. The true strength there is in besting someone in physical strength and skill. Of course, a murderer would be someone who would feed Khorne, but a soldier could feed Khorne. A martial artist or professional fighter could feed Khorne. A warrior, good or bad, feeds Khorne. A diplomat does not. A premier soldier does. A GoFundMe does not. This is what leads many mortals down the path of Khorne, for he will bless those that bring him enough skulls. And in a world this destructive, there are many ways to reap a high tally for him. Normally, if I ever want to explain Khorne, I just kind of show him this clip.
I'd never stab you in the back, Shepard. Warriors like you and me, straight to the face.
Moving on, Tzeentch is the second
That's
god,
very
the god
funny.
of trickery and mischief,
Halo.
the changer of ways, the great conspirator and the architect of fate. With a sacred number of 9, Tzeentch is truly the god of change in all of its forms, but there is an obvious undercurrent of mischief and cunning. Tzeentch is such a liar that his pants have gone thermonuclear.
That was not Halo. That was Mass Effect.
What the f*** is it?
His favorite pastime is asking questions that have no answers
I'm
while
glad you
simultaneously making
caught
up
my rage
answers
bait.
on the spot to a question he didn't ask.
Have
Definitely
you ever
wasn't
had
a
dreams
mistake.
that you
It's me.
you could do so you want him to do you so much you could do anything?
He is such a conniving little bastard that every emotion of lying, of scheming, of trickery is a direct way to help feed him. An unfaithful partner, a politician, a spy. Schemes are not always bad, and even the hope to make a better tomorrow is the change he seeks. Because he is the architect of fate and the mastery of sorcery, his presence is purely unknowable. Every depiction of a Tzeentchian demon contains more eyes than are necessary and more mouths than I know what to do with. It is a biblically accurate angel if
I'm sure you could find something to do with all those mouths. You could record so many videos at the same time. You could, if you just had a single directional mic at each mouth, you could record like 10 videos at the same time. That would be sick.
the
That's
angel
what I want to do.
gaslit you into thinking birds are government drones.
Birds aren't real.
But are they? And that is before we even get started on the gigantic bird of sorcery you're going to need to face. Do not
Bird of
ask which
change.
creature
Woo.
screams in the night. Do not question who waits for you in the shadow. It is my cry that wakes you in the night, and my body that crouches in the shadow. I am Tzeentch, and you are the puppet that dances to my tune. Third of the Chaos Gods is the one of acceptance of rot and pestilence, the grandfather himself, Papa Nurgle. Nurgle is the exact opposite of Tzeentch. Where Tzeentch believes in change and hope for a future, Nurgle believes in stagnation and the end of everything. And with a sacred number of 7, every single
Don't
thing,
like the number
pestilence,
7.
boil, and everything in between comes under the great shadow and girth of Nurgle himself. For Nurgle, the plight of mortals
Boobs.
is his fear and wine. And no matter
Spiky
how
boobs.
solid life might be, Everything will decay in the end. In the creation of life, there must be an end to that life. And
Sorry, people keep talking to me in the chat. I feel bad ignoring you. I'm watching my first ever Bricky video, and as a VTuber, I must do a react video to it. So that's what we're recording right now. So I'm sorry if I'm ignoring you. Yes, this is my new model. I drew it. I didn't rig it, but I drew it, and I'm very proud of it. And thank you. Yes, it is my birthday. Happy birthday, me. TYTY. Okay, I return.
nobody has more creations to end lives than Grandfather Nurgle himself. Every boil, every blemish, every pus-filled wound and disease, every rot and every plague is kept and concocted by Nurgle. This, humorously, keeps Nurgle as a jovial god. He is full of life and laughter, and by creating as many diseases as he possibly can, he shares that joy with mortals. I mean, his envoy is the Great Unclean One, and look at how happy he is. And there's a lot of him to love. A fear of death in general is feeding Nurgle. All disease makes him stronger, but to pray for salvation for a wounded loved one is to feed Nurgle. The timeless and inevitable fear that one day you will rot and decay is what gives him strength. The Peloton won't feed Nurgle. Licking the doorknob on a public bathroom certainly does. However, should you
Brick's VTuber collection grows again. I collected Bricky. I have collabed with Bricky many times at this point. I have known him for a while at this point. I have a shop on Orchid 8. I've been in Warhammer for 4 years. He is part of the Frog collection.
embrace your grandfather's gifts, you may find an end to your pain. Emboldened by war and death on a galactic scale, ever present, but now fact on the suffering of a galaxy. One race,
the only choice.
for a
Zinch
while,
is the best
was
one.
able to elude the pull of chaos. An advanced race of psychically attuned aliens whose master over the physical world was so strong that chaos could not gleam from them the morsels of power they once had. Or so they couldn't. Not for a long while. Begin the age of the...
Boo!
The Eldar are a race of pointed-eared humanoids that are all psychically attuned to the warp. If we're being meta here, these are space elves, and these elves ruled the galaxy in the time the Necrons went to sleep and humanity began to rise. The Eldar's empire was galaxy-wide and lasted for longer than any other galactic power that we know of. Their understanding of all things was exceptional. In order to utilize your psychic abilities, however, you must then reach into the other dimension, into the warp, into hell for that power. So if you were to say, cast Fireball, your mind would reach into the warp, gather the strength to rewrite reality, to then cast Fireball. Now, you might think to yourself, doesn't that mean if you are opening up a power to the warp, you may create a lot of risk to yourself because of all the horrible things we just talked about in the warp? Yes! How about we utilize a fancy alternative mode of travel that is substantially safer than the old ones created, called the Webway? What about dying? Miss me with that. We no longer age. And if we do, we can just be reborn like that. Food, water, materials, we make things out of distilled warp essence itself. We sing unreality into cathedrals to dine in. What truly could the Eldari Empire possibly fear? When the base functions of society are no longer a problem for you, you tend to experiment. Perhaps the medium rare steak on your plate would be better if it was elf meat. Hey, I'm not saying we should make cannibalism legal, but like, what's the issue with a little taste? Violent sports is one thing, but how come we don't do sports to the death? I mean, I'm just saying, like, if both participants are willing and clear about it, like, what really is the problem there, you know? Art is in the eye of the viewer, and what is considered art is completely up to the concept of one's own interest. A canvas adorned with the blood of a man wronged is truly the visual poetry that our society needs. Hedonism with a slow and consistent hedonism, the Eldar slid backwards into debauchery of the sort I cannot discuss on this YouTube video. Murder
As an artist who once wanted to paint an entire room with blood of my enemies,
and concubines, and
I relate to this.
Much worse. The Eldar physiology has their emotions heightened, and they can feel more than a human does. So while it can provide lows of pure despair, it can also provide greater highs than you have ever known. And swinging between the two of them was the Eldar game. The warp.
Oopsies. Oopsies. Oopsie daisy.
Slaanesh, the prince of pleasure, she who thirsts, the god of unspeakable excess, is our fourth chaos god with the sacred number of 6 adorning their title.
I love the
Slaanesh,
idea
it's a
of
bit
Slaanesh.
a tricky one, because with our other 3 chaos gods, there was a certain understanding of human emotions and desires, but for Slaanesh, that desire is how they get their power. A patron of the arts may feed Slaanesh, one that aspires to become the perfect chef or master of their craft.
Painting
and the
minis
sheer
until they're
pursuit of
perfect.
that alone will feed Slaanesh. Whiplash is Slaanesh's absolute favorite film. Videos where people beat Elden Ring on a
I
dance
love
pad
Whiplash.
feeds
Such
Slaanesh.
a good movie.
There are no 2 words in the English language more harmful than good job.
But is there a line?
No, man, no.
Music can increase
Children
to
of the
volumes that may
Omnissiah.
hurt your ears, and even then that might not be enough. More. You must have more.
Sometimes I have that.
Many of the
I'll
disciples
just
of
play
Slaanesh
really
carry
loud
demonic
techno
form
in my
their
ears, and it's like, no, it needs to be more than
The
this.
Keeper of Secrets is
The ADHD
his chosen
needs
envoy,
more.
and their movements are a blur of dance and pain with an aura all the more fatal. They dance and sing, but there's always a form of malice behind every action they take. We have earned our position of power. Let us forever taste the fruits of such achievement. Time itself is ours to command. We
Yep.
are eternal.
I love that. Slaanesh is such an interesting
With
concept.
the birth of Slaanesh, the Eldar
IMO.
Empire ceased to be. In the modern world of Warhammer, the craft world Eldar are the main force of Eldar in the galaxy and represent the elf style that many think of when you think elves in space. Fantasy elves in space, not those elves. We'll get to them. A craft
Wow.
world is a monumentally large starship, the size of a continent. Eldar follow paths as they age, the path of the warrior, the seer, the poet, the diplomat, the bone singer, and so on. These paths are a strict code of conduct to hone the heightened Eldar psychology down a school of thought and action. And if it sounds a hell of a lot like Bushido,
They basically
well,
turned
you're
into
damn
Vulcans
right.
from Star Trek.
And a soul stone. Don't lose it or an eternity of torment awaits you. So when the Eldar say they commune with their ancestors, they mean so very literally, as the spirit and soul of generations before them are stored here. Often larger structures may contain vast amounts of soul stone, such as the Infinity Circuit in the craft world itself, allowing
It's one of the biggest like question marks, I guess. Is so with Ivrain, with the Inari, they're looking for these crone swords, right, to awaken Iniad, which is another god that they want to bring into existence to defeat the chaos gods. And one of the bits of prophecy with the crone swords is that in order to bring about Iniad, they need to channel the infinity circuits and all of these stones and souls and basically wipe out themselves to bring out Iniad, who will then reincarnate them. And it just sounds like such a, like, if that goes wrong, they're all going to Slaanesh. They're all going there. So
the souls of the dead to help power their enormous starship. The young do not desire the discipline of the path, but rather their curiosity drives them to try every fruit from the tree. Each are led by a Phoenix Lord, a name passed down from generations and embodying the souls of prior Phoenix Lords with each new one. The Howling Banshees, led by Jane Czar, Fugin and his Fire Dragons, Baharoth and his Swooping Hawks, or Malgan Ra and his Dark Reapers. Each aspect shrine carries within the Eldar way of war. Fast, hard-hitting, and incredibly tricksy, for they do not have the numbers to fight in any other way. The craft
I have his
Eldar
mini
show
and I
how
want to paint
mangled
it.
an empire can be by their own actions. But for some, the party, it's just beginning. Deep within the webway is the city of Kamara. This dark city once existed as a port in the webway that allowed for ease of transport for the Eldar between its various domains. The significance of this city meant that it needed to be a bit more of a neutral territory outside of the jurisdiction of general Eldar law, and therefore
This has happened since this video, but Vashtor is riding around on Caliban at the moment with the keys, which is an engine and some other stuff. But he's taken Caliban, that's his spaceship. And I think he's going to Comera. I think the Fall of Comera is coming, but that would be too big a plot point, so I don't know.
it was allowed to self-govern. This did not go well. The Dark City became the hideaway for all manner.
Because there's a vault, allegedly, in Comera somewhere. And what Vashtor wants is what's in that vault. Now, I have two theories. Either it is a vault in Comera somewhere, or he's going for the Black Library itself, where Kegarak lives. Now, we don't know that Kegarak lives there, but it's where the Harlequins hang out, and they are Kegarak's most loyal followers. If he wants to get to Kegarak and eat or absorb Kegarak to ascend into being a full god instead of a semi-god, demigod, he could do that. In terms of what could be in the basement in Comera, we don't know. It could be the last crone sword that Slaanesh somehow put there as like a ha, it was here the whole time and you're just dumb and whatever. That would be pretty funny. I don't think it's that, but I genuinely don't know what it could be. The other option that I have is that he's going to Mars. Because if you know about Admech stuff and Mars, the machine spirit, the Omnissiah, allegedly is a shard of the Void Dragon deep within Mars. And now on Mars, there is a cult called the Guardians of the Dragon. They are dying out. There are not many of them left. They are weak. Vashtor could come to Mars and cause a schism, which is already happening again, to make a civil war within the Admech, to make more Darkmech, to split them again. And it will free the Void Dragon shard. That would be sick. That would be insane. That would be amazing. And then either Vashtor can capture that shard and use it as a massive demon engine, like soul power source thing. Or the Void Dragon is freed and races to eat Terror, and the Emperor, in a last bout of massive Psyker energy, pulses and kills this shard, or pushes it to the other side of the galaxy. And in doing so, the Emperor dies and then ascends himself to become a chaos god. That would be insane. That's my conspiracy. There you go.
Of sin. The Eldar race slipped into debauchery on a galactic scale that it birthed a god, and this was the city you went to when that wasn't enough for you. The convenience of being so deep within the webway was that it exists as a blind spot to the horrors of the warp. So while the rest of the Eldar fled the downfall of their species, Comera kept partying. When Slaanesh was birthed, they were saved the worst of it, thanks to them being nice and neatly tucked away inside the webway. The Drukhari are soul vampires, but the more basic means to feed are hardly enough to keep them going. This desire to feed is known as the thirst, and to quench it effectively, they have mastered the art of biotechnology.
There's a really cool section in Rogue Trader where you go to Comora and you meet a lot of Drukhari, and it's very cool, and you get to go through a lot of politics and like how everything works, and it's really cool.
And dark sciences to really juice themselves up on the crispy soul sprite from the vending machine called the Galaxy. The majority of Drukhari act as pirates and raiders and slavers. They go into our physical reality and drag people back to Comora to commit atrocities that go beyond any imaginative torture a human can think of. The Drukhari are organized in various groups throughout the Dark City to accomplish this in a more organized and extremely brutal.
A podcast episode where Warhammer creators pitch their most unhinged theories and predictions would be really fun. It would. It would. I have done a video like that with Sandman of Terror and Pancreas No Work. But it was just my dog shit theories. But yeah, that would be really cool as like a podcast. I agree.
Way. The Cabals act as the main warriors of the city, led by their archons. Witches and succubi act as entertainment for Comora in gladiatorial arenas, and the flesh-crafting homunculus keep the Drukhari alive and discover ever increasingly more painful ways to torment their ever increasingly large supply of slaves they are brought. The Dark Eldar see the other inhabitants of the galaxy as little more than cattle, a dark reflection to the craft worlders and a taste of what Eldar society was like before the fall. If they do not succeed, they must find purchase elsewhere. Often those will join smaller parts of Eldar society like the Exodites or the Harlequins. Exodites believe in a pre-industrial variant of their society, often retreating to more lush worlds to ride dinosaurs and live off the land.
Exodites.
Prehistoric style that I would normally laugh at.
Man, those new Exodite models look
riding
sick.
Dinosaurs like ballers. The Harlequin dancing troupe are a subsect of Eldar that are more than just a little strange. A carnival of dancing jesters that serve the Eldar laughing god of Kegarak. They arrive never when expected and leave just as quickly. Blurs of light carry their footsteps as they dance their foes into a grave. Combat is just as much of a joke as it is a play on bloody murder. They travel and aid many other Eldar and sometimes even humanity for reasons we can never understand. Perhaps one day we would have, were they not stripped of.
It's very funny in the Rogue Trader Museum, Trazine's Museum DLC. If you haven't played it, I've done a walkthrough with Sandman as well. That's on my channel. And there's a pedestal with a mask on it. And on the description for the pedestal, it says that it's a solitaire. It's just the mask. The solitaire has escaped. That, like, as much as it was Rogue Trader, and it's like, it's a story game, it's not a scary game. When I saw that pedestal the first time, and I saw that that solitaire was missing, and it was just his mask, I was on edge. I was going around that museum really slowly from that point. Just like going really like, is there gonna be a solitaire just jumping out at me somewhere? Is that gonna happen? It was very like, it was one of the like scariest parts I've had in that game. It was quite funny, but yeah, carry on.
Their army book and folded into the Eldari Codex. So I suppose it'll have to stay a mystery, or maybe it was one of Kegarak's master plans to get back at She Who Thirsts and save their species. Before the fall of the Eldar, Earth, or Terra as it's called, was in ruin. One man who looks to put the pieces back together. Where did he come from? We don't know. Some say he was the result of early shamans. Some say he is the final Old One who escaped their species' genocide. And those that are smartest know the answer is, it doesn't matter. He revealed himself as the Emperor of Mankind, and he was tasked with the most monumental upheaval of humanity possible. He needed those that could build him a fleet truly meant for the reconquering of the galaxy. And so he turned his attention to the red planet of Mars.
Guardians of the Dragon!
Mars and Terra were close allies long before the Unification Wars. Mars was the first world terraformed by humanity and became what would ultimately be the first hive world, an epicenter for industry and technology. The Age of Strife did not treat the red planet kindly, however. Mars was cut off from Terra during this time, and the warp storms that ravaged the planet turned it into an absolute nuclear hellscape. Those who were on the surface were turned into your run-of-the-mill mutant if they even survived the bombings they inflicted on themselves, but others were lucky enough to escape beneath the red sands in powerful fallout shelters. These became their generational habitats, but this resulted in extreme reliance on technology and those who could use it. They began to view the technology keeping them alive less as a technological
He was in grey sweatpants earlier, now he got shiny pants
intervention on. With those skilled in it as priests.
When
the
did that
Martians
happen?
began to worship the power of the machine, and this resulted in the formation of the cult Mechanicus, the belief in a holy trinity known as the Three-in-One. The machine god, serving as the spirit who gave rise to all technologies known, the motive force, the deity that gives all life its ability to live, and the Omnissiah, a physical manifestation.
Should we be concerned the Emperor is starting to stir? Surely he won't be blamed for the Imperium for torturing him for the last 10,000 years. It's not that he's beginning to stir, it's that he has been healing. Like, previously we've only seen him as, like, a skeleton, and now in the 11th preview he had skin. Like, him moving, like, yeah, fine. He does that. But like the fact that he has skin that is like actual colored skin now is pretty good. But yeah, no, he's not standing up anytime soon though. No.
Of the machine god itself. This belief began to manifest in them physically as well. What were once humans began to really mess around with the character creator options, and this tech obsession made them view instances of flesh to be weak and spend their lives removing what makes them human and replacing it with mechanical augments. The forces of the Emperor would be supplied with all the technology and weapons they needed to reunite the scattered remnants of humanity under one banner, and the Mechanicum of Mars would be able to keep doing what they were doing religiously and scientifically, so long as they kept up their tithes. This tithe meant total quality control over all technology in the Imperium. Is it a big spaceship? AdMech take care of that. Tanks? AdMech take care of that. The literal bullets in a gun? You guessed it. But
Mobian
unlike
steel.
the factories of today, the forged worlds of Mars and the creations of the Mechanicum are a bit of a different experience altogether. Instead of a factory.
Another hour? There's another hour to this? Can I go and get a pot of ice cream? It's only part one. I know, I was going to get ice cream during the second part. Okay, I'm going to go and get the strawberries and cream. I will be back very fast.